Kristi may have just uncovered the most terrifying clue in From so far. According to Fatima's latest medical readings, she shouldn't even be alive. Her vital signs are so abnormal that by any normal medical standard, she should be dead. And yet, she's walking, talking, thinking, and acting like herself. If that sounds impossible, that's because it is. But in a town where impossible things happen every day, this revelation could be pointing towards something much bigger. It could be the first real clue about what the monsters actually are, and more importantly, how they're created. Before we get into the theory, let's quickly recap what happened. And if you're obsessed with unraveling the mysteries of From, theories, and episode breakdowns every week, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment now. I make this video all by myself, and most importantly, subscribe if you love your mother.
Just kidding.
After strange symptoms, Fatima's condition continues to become more disturbing. The unusual veins spreading across her stomach, the bizarre pregnancy situation, and the increasingly unexplainable events surrounding her have pushed everyone into unfamiliar territory. Kristi and Mari examine her again, hoping to find answers, but instead they discover even more questions. On the surface, Fatima appears relatively normal. She's tired, confused, and understandably frightened, but she doesn't look like someone who is dying. In fact, she insists that she feels fine. That's what makes Kristi's eventual discovery so shocking. But before that revelation arrives, the episode spends time exploring how everyone around Fatima is coping with what's happening. One of the most important conversations begins when Fatima openly wonders if she might be transforming into one of the creatures that stalk the town at night. It's a horrifying possibility. What's interesting is that neither Boyd nor Kristi immediately dismisses the idea. In most situations, someone would laugh off such a theory, but this is From. The rules of reality stopped making sense a long time ago. Boyd doesn't tell her she's wrong. Kristi doesn't tell her she's wrong either. Instead, both of them remain cautious because the truth is, they genuinely don't know what's happening to her. That uncertainty speaks volumes. If the people who are usually the most rational in the room can't confidently reject the possibility that Fatima is changing into something else, then maybe viewers shouldn't reject it either. Ellis, however, reacts very differently. For him, this isn't a mystery to solve. This is the woman he loves. The idea that Fatima could be turning into one of those smiling creatures is almost too painful for him to even consider. Every time someone brings up the possibility, he pushes back against it, and honestly, that's understandable. Sometimes people aren't arguing because they think a theory is wrong. Sometimes they're arguing because they're terrified the theory might be right. Ellis has already lost so much. The thought of losing Fatima too is something he's simply not prepared to face. Then Mari introduces the perspective that immediately creates tension. Instead of viewing Fatima's transformation as purely negative, she suggests that it might actually represent an opportunity. After all, Fatima has already demonstrated some kind of unusual connection to the creatures. Whatever happened between her and Smiley remains one of the strangest developments in the series. Mari argues that if Fatima is gaining some kind of ability or connection that allows her to influence the creatures, then maybe this transformation shouldn't be stopped immediately. Maybe it should be understood first. Naturally, Ellis hates hearing this. To him, it sounds like Mari is prioritizing a potential advantage over Fatima's well-being. But Mari isn't being cruel. She's being practical. The residents have spent years living in fear. They've spent years reacting to the monsters instead of understanding them. If Fatima's condition offers even the smallest chance of learning something about their enemy, Mari believes they have a responsibility to investigate it. What's fascinating is that Fatima herself seems more open to Mari's theory than Ellis's, and perhaps that's because Fatima has already accepted something that everyone else is still struggling with. She can't control what's happening to her. She can't explain it. She can't stop it. So rather than fighting every possibility, she's trying to understand it. If there is some purpose behind these changes, maybe discovering that purpose is better than pretending nothing is happening. Meanwhile, Fatima eventually returns to her room to gather some belongings before moving to the clinic. Ellis immediately starts packing as well because he wants to stay close to her. But what's interesting here is how differently they view the situation. Ellis wants to protect Fatima. Fatima wants to understand what's happening. Those goals may sound similar, but they're actually very different. The more Ellis tries to reject the possibility of change, the more Fatima seems willing to confront it. And that difference in perspective may become extremely important moving forward. Back at the clinic, tensions continue to rise between Kristi and Mari. Kristi criticizes Mari for sharing her theories at a time when emotions are already running high, but Mari refuses to back down. From her perspective, nobody has the luxury of waiting for the perfect moment anymore. They're trapped in a nightmare. People are dying, and every new clue could matter, even if it makes people uncomfortable. Both women make valid points, which is what makes the scene work so well. Neither is entirely right, and neither is entirely wrong. Eventually, Fatima expresses interest in speaking with Mari more about the possibility that her condition could somehow help them understand the creatures. But before that conversation can happen, Kristi notices something alarming. She checks Fatima's vitals again. Then she quietly pulls Mari aside. And what she says may be one of the most important revelations the show has ever delivered. According to Fatima's readings, her body is essentially functioning like a corpse. Now, it's important not to jump too far ahead here. The show does not explicitly confirm that Fatima is dead. However, the implication is undeniably disturbing. Her vital signs are so abnormal that by any normal medical standard, she should be dead. And yet she's walking, talking, thinking, and acting like herself. If that sounds impossible, that's because it is. But in a town where impossible things happen every day, this revelation could be pointing towards something much bigger. It could be the first real clue about what the monsters actually are, and more importantly, how they are created. What's particularly interesting is that we've never actually seen how the monsters came to exist. We've spent multiple seasons watching them hunt people, manipulate people, and terrorize the town, but we've learned almost nothing about their origin. Where did they come from? Were they always monsters? Or were they once human? Fatima's condition could potentially offer the first meaningful clue, not because it proves anything, but because it introduces a possibility that hasn't existed before. What if becoming a creature is a process, not an instant change, not a magical transformation? A gradual process, a process that begins while the person still appears human, a process where the body changes first, then something else follows. If that's what's happening, then Fatima may be at the beginning of a journey that previous residents experienced long before her. Of course, there are still major questions that challenge this theory. One obvious issue is that not every creature resembles Fatima's situation. The pregnancy aspect doesn't neatly fit what we know about the monsters. But perhaps that's because the pregnancy itself isn't the important part. Maybe it's symbolic. Maybe it's unique to Fatima. Another possibility is that Fatima's connection to Smiley has altered the process somehow. After all, Smiley's role in the story feels too significant to ignore. The series has repeatedly drawn attention to that connection for a reason. Maybe Fatima isn't experiencing the exact same transformation that created previous monsters. Maybe she's experiencing something entirely new. And that possibility may be even more frightening, because if Fatima is becoming something different, nobody has any idea what the final outcome might be. What makes this theory especially tragic is its emotional impact on Ellis. Imagine watching the person you love slowly become someone else, not overnight, not through a dramatic transformation, but gradually, piece by piece. Imagine seeing them talk like themselves, smile like themselves, and remember everything they used to remember while quietly wondering whether the person you love is already slipping away. That's the nightmare Ellis may be facing. And perhaps that's why he's resisting every theory, not because they're impossible, because they're possible. And sometimes possibility is more frightening than certainty. As unsettling as all of this is, there may be an even darker interpretation. What if the monsters aren't simply dead creatures walking around? What if they don't even know what they are? The creatures often behave in strangely human ways. They talk, they smile, they manipulate emotions. They seem to understand people on a deeply personal level. What if fragments of their humanity still exist? What if they remember more than we think? And what if Fatima becomes the first person capable of revealing that truth? Because if Kristi's findings are pointing in the direction many viewers suspect, then Fatima's story may not simply be about survival. It may be about understanding the enemy. For years, the residents have been trying to figure out how to kill the monsters, but maybe they've been asking the wrong question. Maybe the real question is where the monsters came from. And if Fatima truly represents the beginning of that answer, then her story could become the most important storyline in the entire series. Because the terrifying possibility isn't that Fatima is dying. The terrifying possibility is that she isn't. The terrifying possibility is that she's becoming something else, something that exists somewhere between life and death. And if that's true, then the monsters may not be separate species at all. They may be exactly what the residents fear most: former people. People just like Boyd, people just like Ellis. And if that's the case, then every new mystery surrounding Fatima isn't just revealing her future. It may finally be revealing the monster's past.